virtually every heritage, there's kind of this duality. There's this one inward-looking aspect that says we need to get together and protect ourselves based upon whatever category one may choose, whether it's race, religion, nationality, gender identity, or anything else. The other side, there is that the duality looks outward and says, no, we are part of the human race. And we recognize that as such, 99% of us, as the Occupy movement taught us, have fundamental interests in common. And the way we can actually achieve the goals that those interests aspire to is through our unity. Now, my ancestors, getting back to my heritage, have certainly suffered oppression, exploitation over the centuries. From the ghetto in Venice to the Spanish Inquisition to the pogroms in Russia and Eastern Europe to the Nazi Holocaust. But we weren't alone in that suffering. Muslims and indeed some Christians were also the subject of attack during the Spanish Inquisition. And Martin Niemöller pointed out that it was first the socialists, and then it was the trade unionists. It was only after that that the Nazis attacked the Jews, and then lots of other people as well, Romani, gays and lesbians, and pretty much anybody who opposed it. So, just as our suffering and oppression was in common with those, so too was the resistance. And that resistance to oppression did not only take place when Jews were among the targets of the oppression. In Jewish support for and participation in the civil rights movement, which is well known, was indeed disproportionate to our numbers in society. Jews, for instance, not to belabor the point, made up something like half of the white participants in Mississippi Freedom Summer in 1964. And I'd also note that I've been a member of the National Lawyers Guild for all of my professional life. And the Lawyers Guild was the one legal organization that gave concrete support to the civil rights movement in the 1960s by setting up the Committee to Aid Southern Lawyers and setting up and staffing an office in Mississippi to support the demonstrators, to support the people fighting for voting rights at a time when it was quite dangerous to do so. So, in today's climate especially, my being on the CARE board, I think, is in the best tradition of what I honor as a Jew. To say nothing of what I honor as a member of the National Lawyers Guild. And that's a tradition I fear is being forgotten by too many people today. Because after all, today, Muslims are the principal target of racism and xenophobia in the United States. There's people who said that being Muslim is the new black, which, as if African Americans are no longer subject to any kind of racial prejudice in this country. But that's a topic for another time. But today we see presidential candidates, we see governors, elected officials, all sorts of others calling for the most extreme measures of repression against an entire body of people, against an entire religion, because of the actions of a tiny, tiny group. And we don't see that, for example, when, in terms of Dylann Roof or Robert Deere, both of whom have acknowledged that their Christian beliefs were a basis, their twisted Christian beliefs, I would say, were a basis for the villainous actions that they carried out. So today, being a part of CARE is really being a part of a tradition not just of Jews, but of white people who've always stood up against, very often, the prevailing current, in support of decency and civil rights and human rights. It's no different from whites who were part of the founding of the NAACP. No different from whites who participated with SNCC at the time when SNCC was one of the leading organizations fighting for civil rights in this country. And today, the truth is that CARE is one of the leading organizations fighting for human rights in this country. And you'll see, by the way, in the video, that it is not limited to, if the video is working, it's not, CARE's activities do not limit themselves to just protection of Muslim rights. But these days, I suppose you've read or heard that a mosque was set on fire in California yesterday. I was on Facebook this morning and I read an account of a native-born Muslim woman who got on a bus in, I think, Chicago, Detroit, I'm not sure, who was berated by some guy on the bus that she does, belong here, get off, go back home, and apparently no one intervened to defend her. So we have a lot of work to do. And I'm sorry? Were you asking? And people get interrupted. I'm used to that. Judges do it all the time. But the struggle to advance the cause of human rights has been continuing for centuries, as I said. And we've come a long, long way in understanding the broad spectrum of rights that people are entitled to merely by being born human beings, regardless of anything else. We've not done so well, I'm afraid, in implementing them in a way that people can actually enjoy those rights. CARE is doing that, is a part of that struggle. So I'm privileged to be a part of the effort. We trust that now that we're here, we can work together with other organizations, with other individuals, to advance that struggle. There's a song I remember from my younger days that said, if we don't support each other's struggles, it's ourselves that we betray. And now support comes in a number of forms. I trust Cal will specifically mention that one of those forms is fiscal. But it's also ideological, it's also physical. And we cannot betray ourselves by not supporting each other. Let's join together to overcome finally and completely the xenophobia and racism that has been so much a part of U.S. history. Because in the end, the arc of history may bend towards justice, but it bends a lot more sharply towards justice when people of good faith take hold of it and bend it in that direction.